LinkedIn Live, Hour of Empower. Today's word of the day is attitude. I'm so honored to have Catherine Chadwick with us again today. She's just phenomenal in not only her knowledge and experience, but her ability to communicate and share it. So, with that said, chat's open. We rely on you to direct us in any way we can help the most. We're here to serve. And without you, there's no reason for us. So, with that said, Catherine, so happy to have you again. Uh, say hello to this wonderful audience.
Well, Don, thank you because I'm delighted to be here. It's very much fun and I absolutely enjoy it. And I enjoy the conversation that comes out of these, which is really fabulous. And it's unfortunate that Leslie can't be with us today. And I'm sending lots of good love and light your way. Right. So,
Well, and she's here in spirit. We're thinking about you, Leslie, and hope
yeah.
you're only getting better. So, yeah, it is a pleasure to have you, Catherine, because our conversations start so easily and then they go so in so many different directions.
Mhm.
An attitude is just something that naturally everybody has.
Right.
The question is, what kind of attitude is it? And how do you maintain your best attitude and try to improve tomorrow's attitude? So, what's your initial thoughts on attitude?
When I first read that attitude is a thought of the day, what first came to mind is attitude is a choice. And it's certainly influenced by past experiences and our own, upbringing, our own belief systems, all of these things. And what's interesting is that attitude really either kind of makes you or breaks you, right? Because it goes back to what you're thinking. And that saying, if you think you can, and if you think you cannot, you cannot. And that can do attitude, oh my gosh, can take you a very long ways.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's so important um, to be aware of other people's attitudes also,
Yes.
because attitude really has the biggest impact on the people around you
Hmm.
and the things around you, right? How you look at whatever you own is an attitude,
Hmm.
what you have. And, attitude is kind of on the way to gratitude,
Oh, absolutely.
and I guess that's why they share so many letters together. And when you're grateful, your natural attitude is starting out like you're lucky, like you're fortunate,
Hmm.
like everything you've had so far has been a wonderful ride, and looking back it's even better because now you can look back at what's already finished. When you're looking forward, you're only looking at what's next and what could happen instead of really enjoying what has happened. And I think that's an attitude you bring with you, is because the next person you meet has no ownership on anything before they just met you, right? So they're not obligated to make up for a loss or share a win,
Hmm.
and I think attitude, just like a new day, starts with a new slate. So how do you see that? And we're starting to get some really quality comments coming through. Thank you so much, audience. Uh, Catherine, we've got people here. Well, I'll just say hello really quickly.
Okay.
Masha here. Thank you, Leonard uh, from Albania. Great to have you. It's nice that this message is circulating around the world because it is a universal, evergreen message of having a better attitude for better. Christine's here. I know Christine's always into all kinds of different situations and is really an explorer. Mega Leslie fan here, but I'm sure I'll love Catherine too. Well, that was the reason to have Leslie and Catherine, because they pair so well
Yeah.
and they share so well. So I think that's the importance of the combo or the trio or however you want to
Hmm.
compose it. Uh, Kristen's here. Had a great call with Kristen, a lovely person. Oh, Leslie. Leslie is here. Thank you for being here, Leslie. Anytime you want to get on, I'll send you the link. But I know you're just getting through, and me and Catherine were talking about you before the show and during the show. So we're trying to give your time through us to everyone. Ashif is here. Gratitude shapes your attitude. Yeah, because you got to count your blessings. There's something to that.
Mhm.
And everybody has them. When they happened, how long they happened, it doesn't matter as much as that being in the forefront of the foundation of your current attitude, because it will shape your thoughts, your behaviors, other people's reactions. Great crowd. Catherine, what do you think? We're on fire.
Well, I think it's fabulous that we're all here together, and how fun is that, right? So, and the thing that's really interesting, as you were talking a minute ago, is the present moment is all that we ever really have. And so anytime that we're, mulling over what may have gone wrong in the past is kind of wasted time, because learn from it and move on, right? And I think that has a lot to do with attitude as well, because attitude embodies us, or we embody the attitude, right? Because the attitude is definitely what we think, and it's also visceral. I mean, you can sense somebody's attitude, right? It has very much to do with energetic levels. And gratitude, of course, has a higher energetic level. And isn't that so fun to run on?
Well, sure. And I think higher energy benefits everybody.
Mhm.
Like I always say, people hear your music way before they hear your words,
That's right.
right? And if you're happy, energetic, it's contagious, no different than the other direction one can lead people into.
Mhm. Yeah.
And, it's about being more of a we person than a me person. When you go in somewhere, it's for the people there or with the people there. It's not like, hey, what am I going to get out of it? Some people plan who they're going to talk to and for what reason before they even have the conversation. And another
Right.
person is dumbfounded how, it could be so manicured. And what I like about what we're doing, and we're going to continue to do more of it, and I was just mentioning to Catherine, is really pivoting towards the person here and getting to know them better, and
Mm.
not just have someone reflect on things, which is great. It's spontaneous, it's new, it's fresh, and it's responsive. But really looking at what people do and why they're doing it, and how our key word then applies to how they do what they do. So staying within that framework. So where does attitude play the biggest role in what you do?
Well, it's just pretty much everything, because I really believe that we all have unique gifts. I think that we have way more control over our health, how we operate, than most of us have been programmed to believe. And I also want to include here, because Leslie and I are very like minded. And I had asked Leslie to please send to me something from her. And so I actually did a copy and paste, and I'm going to read that to you, because it's very much about what we think, how we feel, and how we act.
Great.
So, right, attitude is not one, but three things: what we think, then how it makes us feel, and the actions we take. Often we hear change your attitude, yet are often stuck at how to do it. When we realize attitude is not one thing, we can get to the source, what we're thinking. And I really like the way that you worded that, Leslie. So thanks for sending that along and giving us a little more oomph to what we're talking about too. But absolutely, and it goes right along with what I refer to as the ultimate mind diet. If you Google the term, the phrase mind diet, you have a lot of nutritional information in regard to how to boost your cardiovascular situation, or how to stave off Alzheimer's. What are good things? What are good nutritional things to eat? But the ultimate mind diet is really the queen, and the king of everything as far as how we operate, because your thoughts dictate your emotions. And when you also understand that emotions, the research shows that, an emotion's lifespan is 90 seconds or less. And so that's not very darn long. And so it's by choice that we have the tendency to keep these things going over and over and over and over, right? And how the reticular activating system works. And this is a very simplified explanation. I think of the RAS, the reticular activating system, as a synthesizer, because what we're thinking about, the RAS puts us on a scavenger hunt for that, right? And then, because that's what we're looking for, that's what's coming back in. That's what's being filtered. And that's why this loop has a tendency to just go round and round and round. And so we absolutely have a choice as to what kind of scavenger hunt we're going to have today, right? And what are we looking for? What are we finding today? And I think it's important to also understand with the Ultimate Mind Diet and the thoughts is words and thoughts and actions all have energetic values to them as well. And if you want to have a fun day, you're going to need to be thinking fun thoughts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so true in so many wonderful ways. What comes to mind is getting aware of what your real attitude is to you first. And then how will that project to whoever you come in contact with? And what influence will that have? Right? Because there's responsibility and accountability towards attitude. And then what tools or what can you use to optimize your attitude? And usually in my case, it's exercise. I can walk something off because I'll just get tired after a while. Everything I was thinking about. And then I'll just go back. And like I said, there's times when I had major appointments on my way to work. I said, I'm no good for anybody right now. And I'd pull off and I'd go to a park. And I'd postpone the meeting or change the meeting. But at least when I went there, I was ready for the person or the meeting versus making a time frame more important than an attitude adjustment. So, it's just knowing where you're at, knowing is that where you want to be, and then figuring and here's the thing, if you're into something for something more important yourself, that will justify you doing something more than you would have just for yourself. And I think that's important. And with that, we've got some great individuals here. Cheryl, I haven't seen you in the past, but so welcome to have you from Mumbai. Dennis is our poet laureate, is a very, very wonderful gentleman. Agree, caring and sharing is great. Leslie's so gratified by our sharing of her story and everything else. Great guest already, Leslie. Hi, Cheryl here. Dennis says, on fire, and we all like to be in good shape at the present moment. Thanks for presenting. So welcome, Dennis. So nice to see you. Appreciate. Happy to hear and see. We, not just me. And Leslie comes back with happy to do. We're aligned so well. And I think what this is demonstrating is what they call full circle. You create something, you send it out, it comes back with more than you sent, and allows you now to send more. And it's really ratcheting up together. And your attitude changes with your environment, and your environment's heavily influenced by the people you are in daily contact with. And like I say, some people are like elevator buttons. Some take you up and some take you down. And after a while, you start to identify who are those people that just hanging around with makes you forget about a lot of your worries, makes you start thinking about what they're into or what you could be into with them, because it's possibilities, it's synergies. that are so important. And it's being important to as many people as you can out of respect for their time and their situations. And I think if everybody elevates mindset, attitude, and the sense of community, we're giving to someone who one day will get stronger or one day give back to you, or just be grateful that you gave them something without giving anything back. Whatever the return is, it flexes your gifting muscles, your generosity in sharing really some ideas that were highly expensive the way you had to learn them and the payment that took, where now if you can save somebody from a situation or get somebody through the same situation, that's where the power comes from, because that's where the true relationships, especially trusted relationships, come from. So much to work with here, Catherine.
I know, right? And what I'm thinking about as you're talking is the mindfulness and your own level of self-awareness is so important to the whole equation here that you're talking about. Because if we're not filled up and able to really be generous and creative and see possibilities, then it's very difficult to offer much of value to anyone else. I was talking with a client the other day, and it seemed like she was really just continuing to diminish herself and kind of sidestep. And I said, okay, I want you to think of yourself as a center of a circle of good, because you are. Right? And you're just filling yourself up, and you're filling, and your level of self-awareness is coming up all the time because you're doing the work. And think of yourself as being in a center of a circle of good, and who and what belongs in that circle, and who and what does not belong in that circle. And it gives you a great visual as like, oh, okay. So, perspective is interesting, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think what it lends itself to is additional training and coaching, because if everybody had somewhat of a roadmap that they could look at and say, here's where it begins, here's what takes care of the middle, and here's how the result can be achieved, your attitude changes based on your confidence in success.
Right.
When you have no plan, where it's one day, one step at a time, it's a little bit more exciting and interesting, but it's not really confident building until you start achieving something a little more tangible. So if you understood, and that's why almost everybody I talk with, they all agree that if they knew exactly the 5-10 steps, whatever activities they needed to do to get to a sure result, they could learn it or do it or find somebody to do it, but that wouldn't be the issue. It's really organizing and understanding foundation and context to everything. Because too many people get a tidbit, gets maybe some food for thought, but then the engine just never turns over, And I think that's the key, is how do you get started, and then how do you go forward and then enjoy the ride? Before we get too deep, we've got Leslie coming back. Perspective is always changing. Dennis says, agree, respect their time, and give them a rhyme when they have the time. So right. Renadeb is here. Good morning. Always good to see you. Christine comes back with, yes, having an action plan is key. In caps, that's so important. Sheaf says, I once couched a powerful offering called Change the Attitude, Change the Business. It empowered staff in enjoying the workplace, providing happy, enjoyable customer service. An environment of trust equals higher revenues. Makes perfect sense. There's nobody who's going to question a better attitude isn't better than a lesser attitude. But it's really then the application of the attitude that makes everything happen. If not, it's just bunch of great thoughts that you have with and for yourself. Catherine, what stands out among all these great comments and commentors?
Well, absolutely have to take the actions, right? Because nothing goes anywhere if we don't take the actions. And I think that, and as you're talking about confidence, confidence enhances our ability, right, to take those actions. And the more confident we are, the more we're open to also possibilities. Because as we move forward, new information is coming to us all the time, which alludes to what Leslie was talking about, is perspectives are always changing. And we have to be open to this new information. Where did that old saying come from? You know, stuck in the mud. Well, some people are. It's not a good place to be.
Especially if you were once driving on the road.
Right. Yeah.
So you're not just stuck, you're stopped from what you were doing. And that's the beauty of attitude, is it can change all the time. And perspective is what goes into your attitude, because perspective really is what looking glass are you looking through to see what it is, and how happy are you at what you're seeing. You know, and there's a saying, some people are climbing up the right ladder against the wrong wall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if one can then decide, hey, this doesn't fit my plan or my purpose, you can exchange that for your plan. Well, it just tells you right there it's not aligned. And I think alignment is so important with whatever you integrate with or buy something or with someone. And it's really the confidence knowing, here's what I'm here for. Here's what I'm going to do to get it, right? And here's what I'm going to do to celebrate it when I get it, right? And then I'll be more inclined to keep doing things like that. But if you're also leveraging a huge platform like LinkedIn with 900 million people, just the slightest distinction will give you a huge opportunity for greater, more important visibility. Because you don't want people just to see you. You want people to know you,
Yes.
right? When they see you. And these shows are the way to share it. Because everybody loves personal experiences and stories. The key is, does the story and personal experience relate to the subject and to the audience?
Oh, of course.
Right? So when does the energy go out and when does it get taken in, I think is so key. So, you know, Danny's here. Danny's just a great gentleman from England. Apologies, no problem. Already planned to go to the gym. You know, and I think that's the key with energy. You know, what we talked about, elevator buttons. There's a lot of people who do help you adjust your attitude or adjust it for you if you're open to it, right? If you start accepting new ideas, new thoughts, new people, all of a sudden your attitude gets better, because I think there's also an element of hope that comes with attitude. If you know tomorrow's going to be better than today, if you know you're looking forward to an event that's something really valuable to you, every day in between adds to the anticipation of the event. You can slide through 6 days knowing on the 7th you're going to see a great friend you haven't seen, or go to a wonderful place you always wanted to visit or revisit. And I think that's what you need to do with your plan, because a straight line may be the fastest way between 2 points, but isn't not always the most enjoyable or fun way. You know, to pivot, to take off for a side trip, to do something special. You know, you make yourself more important than the thing. And then the thing is easier to deal with, right? If the thing is everything, then you're always rolling the dice. So, Catherine, you seem to be agreeing with some of this.
Well, just as you were talking about, you know, the straight trajectory, it's rarely a straight trajectory. There's always course correction, and that detour that you come up again, so it's just like, well, okay. And so flexibility and, gosh, looking for the adventure of things, I think it is a delightful way to live, because it it's a higher vibration and it gives you more possibilities. You're more creative. And I think creativity is important to anyone's vision, to anyone's dream. What do they want to accomplish? What is their purpose, right? And so you really know by several areas of your life whether you're really on your purposeful track or not, right? Because if you're aligned on the inside, you're always more apt to be aligned on the outside, because how we think and how we feel actually affects our health and how our body operates. And I think it's really important for people to understand that and know how to work with it.
Yeah, that's so valuable. And I also believe through the discussion we're having today, people really do need recognition, validation, confirmation,
Mhm. Right.
and when they start getting that, it goes beyond it's me to they really like me, or they really appreciate the value I'm bringing, which then makes
Mhm.
it more valuable to the person providing it.
Well, and also, and then that's, it's like that children's book, if you give a mouse a cookie, right? And if you realize that you're able to give a little value, then it's just like, oh my gosh, okay, how much more value can I give? How much more can I learn? How much more can I share? What experience have I had that would be helpful to this person, right? And so that's really the fun of it, I think.
Well, and with the medium that we're using, the ripple effect has so much more amplification where it's not you giving something, it's you sharing something through somebody who's going to continue to share a portion or all of it to the next person. And all of a sudden, people are learning from you that you'll never meet,
Right.
never understand what took place, but
Mhm.
the possibilities are there.
Right.
And in the past, it was who could you get in front of? Even if a
Mhm.
speaker, a room was only going to be so big. But if, our conversation doesn't depend on the size of the audience,
Right.
right? There could be 1 million people and it's the same effort, it's the same thought.
Mhm.
But that's the key is how do you use platforms where you're an advocate for your network to
Mhm.
share important opportunities for them instead of
Right.
try to get ownership, or be the only source
Mhm.
when you have something. And I think that's when people tilt things and they start working better because there was an overwhelming amount of people that went one way and left a whole group to themselves where it is a road less traveled, where it's a little
Mhm.
quieter, where it is a lot safer, you know, and people can come just for being in that environment. That's why people go to places like Starbucks, right? It's
Mhm.
not just a coffee, it's the meeting, greeting,
Mhm.
relaxing. And I think if you incorporate that in your attitude, because being in the retail, every customer would typically walk in not wanting to be talked to, right? Because people would say, "Can I help you?" "No, I'm just looking." That would always be the thing. And then it was always harder to have another conversation when someone just, "I'm just looking." But if
Right.
you were to start the conversation from something you noticed about the person that you knew was special, like a belt buckle,
Yeah.
like a nice pickup truck, or their kids were really well behaved. I always said make a friend and then see if you want to make a sale,
Right.
right? Don't make a sale and hope to make a friend afterwards. And the thing is, why not know who it is, especially if it's just you and them in a store? You're here all day. Where's your rush? You know, and without them, there's
Mhm.
no reason for you. So uh, I
Mhm.
think that's the psychology that people have to feel. I need to relax this person. I need to meet them at a good medium ground. And I think that establishes their attitude change is they came in untrusting and cynical, and now you just love their kids, you love their truck, you love, it's like who else is taking an interest in something that they're so interested in? Pretty soon, well, what do you got to say? You know, what's your thought? Well, we've got a lot of comments came in. Christine has a big one here. I took a break last night. I had no business doing that because there's always so much to do, but breaks help you recharge. It was nice to go out to dinner with my family. Then I took one of my daughters to see the Barbie movie, which I highly recommend.
Oh,
You
fun.
know, I mean, why not? You know, that's what you're here for, is to enjoy. Leslie says the goal doesn't change, yet expect and enjoy the detours. Sometimes the detours was much better than the road you thought you were on. You know, that's surprise yourself. You took a break and actually you found more out than if you would have, just kept working at something. As she says, your attitude is like a price tag. It shows how valuable you are. And you're also the person that people either want to be around or don't. How many people said, I like her or him, but they got an attitude or they're a complainer. That's another category people don't want to be in because everybody's got their own stuff, right? And it's not going to fix anything. It almost seems disingenuous. I never asked, I never cared, but now I got to know, and how do you unring a bell once it's in your head? So that's the other issue. Dennis comes back and caps as a capital attitude, and actions don't start with an act. Maria's here. Thank you for being here, Maria. Let me see. Beverly's here. Great to see you, Beverly. Beverly's our Tuesday person. Hi, all. Happy weekend. So glad to make it today. Catherine, we got a lot of wonderful people and making great interactions with us. What's your new thoughts and how one can engineer a better attitude?
Well, it's interesting when you were talking about being in the store, right? And befriending people when they come in or noticing something special about them. And part of that also is people that are wanting to go directly to the sale. How do you know this person can even use what you want to sell them if you don't get to know them a little bit and what it is they're looking for? Because otherwise, how does that work? I've never understood that. And to piggyback on what you said about people that are complainers, yes, as you were talking about that, there's a gal that lives not too far from me, and every time I run into her, she's complaining about something, and what goes off immediately in my mind is, gosh, I hear your mother calling you. I don't want to have a conversation with her. Right? What's the point? Because we're totally on different wavelengths. And so I think that and going back to what you were talking about too, I think when people will start to evaluate some of their thoughts and some of their actions on an energetic level, it's so much easier to have an evaluation without the judgment, without the self-judgment that has a tendency to not allow us to expand our attitude in the direction that we want to so quickly, right?
Well, and I think too, getting feedback, honest feedback, and being good with it will give you more of a real reflection, especially if it's someone you trust. And if you're the one asking, then they have permission. If they're the ones judging and then sharing their judgment, it may not be the right time, place, or you don't really want to hear it right now. It might be just so true, but it's like enough, I'll get back to you. I'll figure it out. I'll add it into the equation. And if you're not willing to get feedback, you're probably not willing to change. And if you're not willing to change, then you're being dishonest to yourself when that's what your, let's say, motivation is.
Right.
And to me, change is everything. I love new. I don't fall in love with old, used up, not benefiting anymore. I mean, everything had its time. The good thing about meals, they're always over. I mean, if you spent a lot of money on a meal last night and you enjoyed it, it's over. Some people buy a piece of furniture and they can never give it up. Even though they used it, they enjoyed it, or clothes because it has this or that, but it's not clothes anymore.
Right.
It's something that reflects a memory, or whatever. So I think when people can, again, be aware of how they show up and how they show up for others. I mean, there's actors and actresses that get on the stage every night and have to play roles that are completely different in how they're feeling or who they are, but it's their job to give the audience what they came there for. And when you enter a group, people should take responsibility, because just like I heard so many stories of people visiting family, and it's like the worst thing to look forward to, and so many regrets coming home in some cases because of the family composition. And I always learned I'm only here for such a short time. That's all these people will see for the next year.
Right.
Why would I go into something I know is never going to change? And all it's going to do is create what I don't want to be around.
Right.
And feel good about leaving, saying I didn't engage. I actually conceded. Sometimes if you want to win, you're a winner. I don't even care. Let's make you a winner. You're right. Who cares? Anyway, I think that's the key, is being able to understand the dynamics of the situation or relationship you have with who you are and who you're with, and say, how do we make this the best time we can? That's all you got to hope for, or a better time than we might have had if we didn't do it this way. And once you get there, then you have less work, right? If you're with somebody who just needs to talk all the time, you decide, I'll just listen all the time. We'll never have an issue. And like, to your point, I'll move on. What's your thoughts, Catherine?
I think it's important to absolutely be open to the feedback and absolutely be a good judge of the situation, right? And what you can contribute and what you cannot. And so the only one that we can control is ourselves. And that's why I think it's so important to do some of our own evaluation as well. And I like to use my curious observer, right? And I like the curiosity part of it. It has a little mischief to it. It takes the sting of the judgment out of it. But ask myself, what was I thinking that caused me to actually take that action, or to actually move forward and do that? And has it been that beneficial to me? And if it hasn't, it's just like, okay, so let's go sit at another chair at the table and look at this from a different angle and see what information, that I can glean from that. And so I think it's important to be able to rely on ourselves in that arena of self-responsibility that you're referring to, to govern ourselves to a certain extent as to what our boundaries are, what is our purpose, what's our intention, and what's going to support those decisions. And what's fascinating is, we never get the time back. And so spending a lot of time on other people's wants and desires that are not ours does not serve us.
Oh, not at all. And to your earlier point, once you're around people that you gain so much value from, that bring so much goodness to you, you become highly sensitive and allergic to the opposite, right? It's like, I just can't be hearing this. It's almost, and just like they say, before you go to bed, whatever you've been experiencing before that, you take with you, right? And if someone's watching the news every night and just watching all the awful things, or even some shows, is that what you want to integrate into your mindset, into your attitude, or does that take away from it? So if you really value your attitude, you'll nourish it. Just like if you valued your body, you
Mhm.
nourish that in the best way. And now it's a choice of, is this taking me towards a better attitude? Well, watching
Mhm.
this, reading this, hearing this,
Right.
spending time the way I am versus how I could be. And it's
Mhm.
magic when it works, because that's the positive reinforcement that you
Right.
have. Is, how many people, I know some, and they're great performers, but they're always down on themselves.
Mhm.
That they're always believing tomorrow's going to be a bad day. And when it's not, they feel happy that they get it wrong. And I keep saying, why don't you just for one day think it's going to be a great day and do
Mhm.
whatever you can in your favor to
Right.
make that happen. And if you
Mhm.
can't, can you make a little bit? Because once you
Mhm.
get there, now it's just maintaining a good attitude and applying that attitude. You don't got to keep getting better. You just got to be adequate for what you're about to do and have fun doing it then.
Mhm.
So I think there's a process and a cycle and a rhythm to it. And then you also know that when you did the wrong thing, said the wrong thing, guessed the wrong way with the wrong person, you just
Mhm.
use that as a, okay, next time,
Right.
right? I'm going to take that into consideration. Or here's even better, you don't need to wait for a next time. Get back to the person and say, I thought about something and I feel bad
Mhm.
about something, you know? And the same
Right.
thing when I end conversations, especially important ones, it's always nice to double check to say, do we cover everything? Right? Is
Mhm.
there anything that, we need to still talk about or something that's not understood? Because at least once you get resolution, you can put it to bed.
Yeah.
You don't want loose ends and they come back to you and you said, I never knew, because that's the thing. People don't always share as much as they should or could for whatever reason. And it's
Mhm.
going to take a little more of a question just to, hey, I'm not quite, are you with me on this, or is there something missing? And it's okay. See, anytime you can say whatever you want to say and say it's okay, whatever it is that I'm cool with it, then you'll get
Mhm.
an honest answer.
Right.
And that's the key, is what you're putting out is going to attract, hopefully, what everybody finds to be a better mutual benefit, because then it paves the road for the next interaction,
Mhm.
right?
And the other thing that's interesting too in what you're saying is that unless we actually communicate with people, right, then we don't really know what they're thinking. And people think and do what they know. And we all expand ourselves by interacting with other people and having conversations and learning new things. And what's fascinating is that I think it's important for people to also understand um, some of the research and I like to make sure that people are aware of what I refer to as the 2 10%. And, because the research shows that we think between 18,000 and 70,000 thoughts in a day, but all the research really concurs that over 90% of these thoughts are the same as the day before and the day before and the day before and how many years before that. The beliefs that have been handed down without evaluation and accepted and just keep perpetuating. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, we've got a lot more to think about here. And the other 10% that I think it's really important for people to know is that over 90% of health conditions and illnesses are lifestyle induced. And this whole study of epigenetics that's opening up, and signaling the genes, up leveling them or down regulating them is really important to know about. And so, okay, if you find that you're on a real cranky streak, just think about streak, just think about what is that doing to you internally, those chemical cocktail reactions to those thoughts and those emotions. And it's interesting how people exacerbate some of their health conditions just by how they operate and what they're thinking about and what their attitude is, right?
Well, that's so hopeful, because it does demonstrate no one has to resign themselves to any current or future situation.
Right.
And if one can have some better control over important things, what's the value of that? Right? People spend all their time worrying about money and they run out of time before they ran out of money. You know, when there should have been a shift. Andrew Carnegie even said when he died, they looked into his desk drawer and he said, the first half of my life, I'm going to be the richest person in the world, which he was. And the next half, I'm going to give it all away, which he did with his Carnegie library system and everything else. So when we look at what our purpose could be based on our better health, because that's another thing about attitude. If you're in good physical and mental and emotional health, your attitude definitely is going to be in a better position than if you're not. Right? And your gratitude level will be sky high. And you'll probably even feel like you're overwhelmed with prosperity that you can share it now and not miss it. Right? When if you got 10 potatoes and you're going to eat 2, you're happy if 8 people show up and eat the other 8 for you. Right? They're doing you a favor. And at a certain point, you might even overcook more potatoes all the time, just knowing that's a possibility. So it's changing the linear perspective of being transactional, being needy, feeling like somebody owes you something, and you're always short coming into something, versus abundant or long in whatever you have, that you don't really need to get more to have what you have or be happy with what you have, but you have more to give. And it's actually something that's enviable and people should achieve, instead of, I got a big house, now I'm going to get 2 of them. Now it's time for the next person to drink from the fountain. So Christine comes back with, yes, feedback is important even when it hurts. It's only path to growth. Well, a question always deserves another question is, if it hurts, then there's an awareness. Something just popped up for whatever reason. That's worth examination, because everything's a part of something and shouldn't be everything onto itself. Right? If one event's going to change everything, then you're on the edge to begin with, I think. Danny's here. The worst complainers are those that are really trying to flex. I've just received £120,000 income tax bill, or this Rolex is just so heavy. Yeah, I mean, people buy, I think to Catherine's point, other people's opinions influence theirs. That's what marketing and advertising is typically about. When they did that book, The Millionaire Next Door, what they realized is millionaires don't live the way millionaires have been characterized in the media. Most of them don't wear a Rolex watch. Most of them actually buy cars that are off 3-year leases because the depreciation's already there. And I think that's the key, is looking at what are you working for or towards, and what does it get you? Right? A real expensive pair of shoes, to me, isn't worth that extra effort or competitive spirit as much as things that you can invest in yourself that will always benefit you. And that's why I always told people who used to work with me, it's not how much you make, it's who you become here. That's the only thing you should be focused on. I do a value every morning date to listen and learn from this great morning show that teaches us to show up and not off. It's just people coming together with the same common interest in most cases. What makes you happy usually makes people like you happy. And, I think the key is to bring joy, to education, to awareness. And I think the other thing is to appreciate, the people here and what they do, and take advantage of what they do and what they offer. Whether it's Catherine's programs, whether it's coaching, I'm looking to expand in the training, coaching, just started a new collaboration group, because we should be able to move beyond where we are if we choose to move forward and have upward mobility and really duplicate through others. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it. And if I can help someone do it with what I've learned, that shortcuts that process. And, I think everybody deserves a voice, has a voice at least. And if they can learn a little bit about attitude, a little bit about projection, there's so much opportunity. Ambimbola says feedbacks help us to evaluate and improve for sure. Maria comes back, boundaries, set them, enforce them, but never settle for foolishness in any situation. Not saying to not attempt a conversation, but sometimes you can sit down and be honest, try to see other perspective, either to move forward or parting the way. Whatever you need at the time and however you need it. Some people are extroverts. They love just being out there, being proactive, being the first one to put their hand out, to shake somebody else's hand. Other people are more contemplative, more private. And if it doesn't help you, then don't try to do what's not natural. Either direction, because you got to be comfortable with yourself. And if you are, you don't have as many concerns. And if you're not, that's a little red flag saying maybe it's time for a change. Get a new perspective, get some feedback. Judge and tell versus observe and share. Yeah, nobody likes to be told what to do. I mean, it goes back to being a kid. Sometimes it is better to know the real news and not just the snooze. It is what it is. And then whatever you want to add to it, for as long as you want to add to it, it'll continue. But, the thing is not how many times you fall down, it's how fast you get back up and how you get up fresh again, not carrying the past into the future. Beverly says to stay positive. You can't always keep lifting others up. Be with uplifting people, rubs off. You got to be true to yourself first, because you're the only person who can. That's the only person you can control anyways. And sometimes not thinking 50-50. It's like whatever gets the job done. Right? It's like, I'll do whatever it takes. Just let's get over it versus I did my share. Now we're waiting. I mean, what's the point? Maria comes back with often a bad attitude or mindset stems from insecurity unless they tackle that, of course. Acknowledging it first, then mindset can be changed. Well, the other thing is, it's how much importance you put on anything, especially when it's new. A person who's a stranger when you met him is a stranger when you left him if nothing happened, right? Everything in between was just a pause. But the next situation or the next person, and nobody should be that important who you don't know. I've gotten to know people I thought were really special and found out how unspecial they really were when you got to see them up close and actually see how they live or react to you. And that's, a sense of humor, I think, goes a long way with any attitude.
Yes, absolutely.
If you can laugh at yourself, if you can have fun when other people are having fun of you or with you or by you, what it says? I'm a good sport. I'm not going to get too affected because, and it also says you can't get to me. Right? If you fold like a cheap lawn chair, as soon as something comes up, everybody will know that. That's a certain tell. Well, if you get rid of her, just talk about that and she'll get rid of herself. Beverly comes back. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Catherine. Mental health and physical health impact each other. And just having meaning and purpose, having belonging, because that's what everybody's looking for, is a home, a happy home, that they can come to and leave from and have family there. Agree to 2% and 10% does matter. It's how you feel. Maria, allow the mind and body are often viewed as being separate. Mental and physical are actually closely related. Good mental health, for sure. I mean, it's a given. And the question is, not always can you change things, because if you could, they'd be changed. Right? Sometimes you plateau, sometimes you come up short. But that's the time you go and get a loan. Right? Yeah. You say, hey, I need 20% to get me through. Well, hey, let's talk about it. They say if you ask for money, you'll get advice. If you ask for advice, you'll get money. So you got to know what you're asking for and to who and why. I think that's the thing. There's plenty of people to help, but under what circumstances? And you got to fulfill their why to them, because it won't be sustainable if it's just a one-time gift. Survive the dark and you will become the light. Every day is coming, whether you're ready or not. So why not be as good as you can? Agree that not how much you make, but how you make it is worth more. So true. Uh, Everyone has a plan for themselves in each week, and that is how different tasks are carried out properly in sequence. Well, yeah, and some people need a plan or need a better plan. And again, it's up to them. If they say, "Hey, I'm loving my life. I'm happy as a lark. Things are going great." Hey, ride that wave. If you've attained it and you've accepted it, then you're there, right? You don't need to do any more, because everything will change even when you decide you stop changing, and you'll adjust. So the landscape is going to move whether you do or not. The things in life, you're in total control over your attitude and your effort, for sure. And we're coming towards the end of the show. These things go so fast with this fast moving.
They do. Yeah.
Sure keeps us on our toes.
It's good, though. And I think another thing to keep in mind, what came to my mind as you were talking, is that sometimes people have unrealistic ideals in their head, and it's that perfection thing that people sometimes strive for. And there's really no such thing as perfection, because, as you just say, things are always changing. And so what's interesting is that I made the perfect decision. Well, that was yesterday, and things are already different today. So I call perfection that pesky P word, and I don't use it, right? It's just like, okay, there really is no perfection other than the perfection of we have life and we're living it, right?
Well, and the simpler you can make everything, typically the easier things get. And if you don't need much, you don't have to do much to get what little you need. So in other words, you're going to pass the whatever level that you need to get to happiness, fulfillment. And everything here is on loan. Nobody owns anything. So whatever you have, it's here while you have it. And I would say use it before you lose it. I'd rather have lived every day like a winner and found out one day I lost than every day feel like a loser and find out one day I won. And what's winning and losing? When you're at 20, it was a different winning and losing quotient than when you're 30, 40, 50, and beyond. Because you tire of things, they don't mean as much. You changed, whatever it is. Embracing change gives you opportunity. Securing where you are just gives you certainty. And that's assuming everything's going to wait for you and stay with you while you decide not to move forward,
And that's interesting too, because we're really not meant to not change.
Well, and then again, you're dealing with short-term versus long-term, expensive versus not expensive, and really motivation. When you can maintain that passion, that joy of yourself, of looking at yourself in the mirror and really admiring yourself, and really being happy with yourself and being sincere in it. I mean, and why not? Right? There's enough of you. There's enough of what you've done, what you've learned, and who you've met and influenced you to have a celebratory attitude of gratitude for who you are. And not only that, having another chance at the roller coaster of life tomorrow. When I wake up, it's like, gosh, got another ticket. Well, what do you want to do with it today? And that's if you can bounce out of bed with that, I can't wait to get to my tea this morning, and enjoy it with a little lemon and honey, or then move on to my walk. You could tailor every part of your life to be exquisite in your own mind, and all you have is your mind.
That's right.
Or you crawling with someone. So with that said, we're almost at the top of hour. This has been so much fun. so much genuine laughter and thought in just a short period of time with so many wonderful people who contributed their time and thought and continue to come
Yes.
back. And that's heartwarming because, the first time anybody's here, no one knows. But when people come back for people who come back, there is a
Mhm.
certainty, and especially with the compliments and the thoughtfulness that people bring. So, can't be more
Yeah.
grateful and appreciate everybody's positive attitude. We'll look forward
Yes.
to seeing you tomorrow. And tomorrow we have Sarah, I believe, for sure. Sarah Dawkins, just a wonderful lady
Okay.
and a great, great inspiration. Should be an attitude booster too. So, with that said, Catherine, thank you so much. Final words you might have for the audience?
Well, thank you, and thanks to everyone. And yes, I always like to, I always work with a fun factor. I think that's really important, and to keep that sense of humor. And I think that that's a fun way to end this conversation, Don.
Well, thank you so much. And I'll give one last wish of improvement to Leslie. And
Yes.
thank you for your comments. And I'll keep in touch. So, with that said, have a beautiful, wonderful day. And we'll talk again tomorrow.